Okay, so today you're going to do your pre-lab for your reaction rates lab. Go ahead and take a moment and make sure that your notebook is set up, and it says 2 dash, and it's actually not the second. It's going to be the 7th, 2-7 reaction rates pre-lab. I'm going to be checking your notebooks when you come back on Wednesday, both, and I'm also going to be checking your pre-lab, so you want to make sure you answer these questions right here, number 1 and number 2. What 2 things need to be true about a molecular collision for a reaction to take place, and why would increase in the temperature cause a reaction to occur faster? Make sure you use the terms kinetic energy and collision. So go ahead and take a moment, pause this, and then answer those, and then play it, and the answer will be, you'll be able to check it. Okay, so for number 1, what 2 things need to be true? This is really important. So number 1, it is that a collision must occur with 2 things. 1, with enough energy, and the correct or proper orientation, which basically means they need to face the same way. That needs to be true. And the second one was, why was increase in the temperature increase the reaction rate? And the answer is that increase in the temperature makes their molecules move faster. So increasing temperature causes molecules to move faster, which therefore, as a result, causes collisions with more energy to occur more frequently. So collisions are more likely to occur. And that's the answer. And so it kind of using the terms that we needed to use, the idea of kinetic energy. So moving faster means more kinetic energy. That's what we gotta include there. That's basically, kinetic energy is the energy of motion, and so moving faster means you have more kinetic energy. Okay? So that was the do now. Right now we're going to define some variables, and we're going to do the pre-lab, and then you're going to have work time. So now when you have work time, you're working with your lab partner, because the two of you, your homework assignment is to finish your pre-lab. So homework, finish your pre-lab, and write a procedure. Now, the procedure, in order for you to start the lab, has to be very detailed. Okay, so very detailed. If you come tomorrow with a procedure that is not that detailed, I'm going to say, well, you need to start over and you need to do that one again. Okay, so in order for us to do the experiment, we need to define this idea of independent variables and controls and dependent variables. And I just wanted to go over this with you really quickly because you have to do this. We did this a little bit in our science fair work time, but I'm just going to go over it, and I want you to write this down in your notebook. The independent variable is the part of the experiment that we are manipulating, so we are intentionally changing it. Intentionally changing. And it has levels, which means if it's temperature, for example, so here's our example. Let's say we're doing temperature. Your levels could be 10 degrees Celsius, 20 degrees Celsius, and 50 degrees Celsius, for example. Okay? Controls might be the other variables that I'm purposefully not changing. So make a note that for each experiment, you only have one independent variable. Okay, so what that means is that, let's say I want to do an experiment. I want to see how temperature affects reaction rate and how surface area affects reaction rate. That's fine, but I need 3 different levels for each one, and then I also need to keep temperature the same during those trials. Now for the second one, it might be, 3 different levels for the temperature trial, but I need to keep surface area the same for those trials. And the dependent variable is the part that we are testing. We are measuring this, and we need a way to measure it. So that means we either need to measure it with a unit. So with a unit, either being seconds, minutes, time, etc., like things that you need to measure, and you need a way to measure it. Okay? So here's what we're doing in class tomorrow. What are we doing? You guys are going to be designing an experiment where you pick at least 2 factors that you will test for how they affect the rate of the reaction. So reminding yourselves you have 5 factors to choose from, and we're going to go over those together in a second. But think about how you will measure the reaction rate. So a rate is the formation of products per second. So how are we going to measure the reaction rate? We're going to measure that by timing the reaction. Okay? So basically, if the reaction takes less time, it's faster. And if the reaction takes more time, it's slower. Okay? So here's the premise of the reaction. So the reaction that you're doing is going to be, you're going to be dissolving Alka-Seltzer tablets in water. And the way that you measure the rate is that you are timing the reaction, and if it's faster reaction, so less time, I'll write that down, less time, that means that you have a faster rate. Okay? So you're going to be doing this yourself. You're going to be deciding what factors do I want. And so the factors are the following. You have temperature. You can change the temperature. I would recommend choosing this one because we have the equipment to do it. Or the other ones. You could change the concentration, which means that you can change how much or how little Alka-Seltzer you use. You can change the volume. You could change the surface area, and you could change the addition of a catalyst. We don't have any catalysts, so you actually can't choose this one, but I would recommend choosing temperature. Surface area is a really good one, and then one of these 2, you can do at least one of those, but you have to do at least 2, so I would recommend choosing those ones. Okay, so here's how you're going to be successful on your lab. You're going to choose at least 2 factors of the 5 that you needed to, of the 5 that we talked about the day before. Your lab has to have a problem statement, and this is what you need to get done in order to be ready to go. For both factors, so that's 2 statements total. And you need to clearly state your independent, dependent, and control variables. So what I might have is I might even have a section where you have like variables, and you have a table. And let's say the first one you'd be like, oh, my independent for this one is temperature. My dependent is time. And my control is, well, everything else I didn't change. And it might be you want to do that for factor 1, and also the same thing for factor 2. Okay, you need to have a detailed procedure, so it needs to be step by step, and you also must have data tables. Now, as soon as you have all of these things done, then you can start on your lab on the block day. Okay, so you have to have these done. These need to be done when you come to class on Wednesday or Thursday. Otherwise, you won't be able to start your lab. Okay, so if you watch the next video, it's going to be me walking through the pre-lab. So go ahead and shut this. You can, not shut this down. Close this video and open up the next video, which walks you through a little bit of the beginning of the pre-lab. And you want to be sitting with your lab partner at this point. So go ahead and find that person and stop, and you can sit with them.